President Trump today invoking an 18th century law to speed up mass deportations, but the controversial move is stirring up some painful memories of a dark time in U.S. history.
In a dramatic clash between the Trump administration and the U.S. judiciary, hundreds of alleged Venezuelan gang members were deported to El Salvador over the weekend, despite a federal judge's last-minute attempt to halt the operation. The deportations have sparked legal, political, and human rights debates, with critics questioning the legality of the move and the conditions awaiting deportees in El Salvador's notorious mega prison. The Trump administration invoked the Alien Enemies Act, a wartime-era law from 1798, to authorize the mass deportations. The act grants the president broad powers to expel non-citizens from countries considered hostile to the United States. The deportees, according to U.S. officials, were primarily members of Tren de Aragua, a Venezuelan gang known for drug trafficking, human smuggling, and extortion. The operation quickly ran into legal trouble. Late Saturday night, U.S. District Judge James Boasberg issued an emergency restraining order, instructing that any planes carrying deportees should immediately return to the U.S. He justified the ruling by stating that flights were actively departing and urgent intervention was necessary. However, the Trump administration refused to recall the flights, arguing that the judge's order was issued after the deportees had already left U.S. territory. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt strongly denied accusations that the administration had ignored the court's decision, insisting that there was no conflict between the legal ruling and the government's actions. Leavitt stated that the administration did not defy the court order, arguing that it had no lawful basis, since it was issued after the alleged Tren de Aragua gang members had already been deported from U.S. territory. Leavitt criticized the judge's ruling, dismissing the notion that a single judge could overturn a large-scale federal deportation operation. She argued that one judge in one city cannot dictate the movements of an entire deportation effort involving foreign criminals who had already been expelled from U.S. soil. The deportation of the alleged gang members was made possible through an agreement between former President Donald Trump and El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele. Under the deal, El Salvador agreed to accept the deportees and immediately imprison them in CCOT, the Center for Terrorism Confinement, the country's largest and most notorious prison. As part of the arrangement, the U.S. government will pay $6 million to help El Salvador house and monitor the deportees. Bukele, known for his aggressive anti-gang policies, embraced the move, publicly mocking the U.S. court's attempt to stop the deportations. Shortly after the deportees arrived, Bukele posted a screenshot of the judge's ruling on social media with the caption, "Oopsie, too late." Trump, for his part, thanked Bukele on social media, praising the Salvadoran leader's willingness to crack down on crime. The partnership reflects a growing trend of international cooperation in handling undocumented migrants, though it has drawn strong criticism from human rights groups. Deported Venezuelans are now locked inside CCOT, a maximum security facility that has been widely condemned for its harsh and overcrowded conditions. The prison, which can hold up to 40,000 inmates, is infamous for its lack of basic amenities, extreme isolation, and reports of human rights abuses. Prisoners sleep on metal bunks without mattresses or bedding and have no privacy, with open toilets in their shared cells. They are locked inside for 23.5 hours a day, with only 30 minutes of daily movement allowed for group exercise or religious activities. Human rights organizations have raised serious concerns about CCOT's treatment of inmates, particularly because many of the 80,000 people detained under Bukele's anti-gang crackdown never received a formal trial. While Bukele admits that innocent people have been mistakenly imprisoned, he insists that such collateral damage is necessary to rid El Salvador of crime. The mass deportation has sharply divided U.S. political leaders. Republican Senator Mike Rounds supported the administration's decision, arguing that national security takes precedence over legal technicalities. Rounds stated that most Americans prioritize safety over legal technicalities, believing that if a law can be used to remove dangerous individuals and protect their families, its age is irrelevant. On the other hand, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries criticized the deportations, warning that Trump's aggressive immigration policies could lead to mistaken deportations of legal residents or even U.S. citizens. Jeffries stated, While we oppose illegal immigration, we cannot support a path that undermines due process, wrongfully deports lawful immigrants, and separates families. With ongoing legal challenges, Judge Boasberg is expected to further scrutinize whether the administration deliberately defied his order. If he finds evidence of intentional defiance, the court could impose stricter compliance measures or even civil and criminal contempt charges against responsible officials. Legal analysts have also pointed out the unprecedented nature of the Alien Enemies Act's use in this case. The law, originally designed for wartime national security threats, is now being used to justify large-scale deportations of non-citizens. The legal precedent set by this case could reshape how future presidents handle immigration enforcement. Global reaction to the deportations has been mixed. While some governments have praised Trump's tough stance on crime, human rights organizations remain deeply concerned about the deportees' legal rights and the conditions they will endure. Venezuela has yet to issue an official response, but there are growing fears that mass deportations under wartime laws could become more common, potentially bypassing traditional asylum and refugee protections. Security analysts have also warned that sending alleged gang members into Salvadoran prisons could backfire, as criminal organizations often continue operating from behind bars. MS-13, for example, has a long history of using prison networks to expand their criminal activities, a defining moment for U.S. immigration policy. The Trump administration's decision to deport hundreds of Venezuelan nationals in defiance of a court ruling highlights the growing tensions between national security priorities and civil liberties. The fallout from this incident will likely shape future debates on immigration enforcement, presidential authority, and America's role in international human rights. Whether seen as a necessary crackdown or an abuse of power, this moment marks a turning point in America's handling of undocumented migrants and foreign criminals. The question now is, will future administrations follow this precedent, or will the courts push back harder to limit executive power?